Hello and welcome to the Simple Marketing Show. My name is Mustafa Hosseini, your host for the show. Today, with my guest Jeffro, we are talking about the secret to high converting websites. Welcome, Jeffro.
Thanks for having me, Mustafa. I'm excited to talk about this.
Absolutely. Now, during this conversation, you're going to learn and discover how to keep your website growing with your business, how to use clear call to actions to guide your visitors to the next step, how to avoid shared hosting for better performance and make your website the strong foundation for your marketing. Now, let me do the proper introduction, Jeffro, and we're going to dive into a very interesting conversation. I'm feeling that we could geek out on this conversation for quite a few hours, but we only have about 45 minutes or so.
Okay.
So Jeffro is the founder and chief website fixer at Frobro Web Technologies, where he helps service businesses turn outdated, unperforming websites into high converting, lead generating assets. With a background in computer science, marketing, and conversion optimization, Jeffro specializes in creating websites that don't just look good, they actually drive revenue. Jeffro, where about are you?
I'm in Southern California, in Orange County, so it's pretty nice
Oh,
weather over here.
oh yeah. It's freezing up here where I am.
Well, I'm not going to trade. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm hoping we could. I was hoping. So let's dive into it, Jeffro. What is your story?
Like Mustafa said, my name is Jeffro, and I want to rid the world of terrible websites. That's my personal mission. But I've always been drawn to technology and computers since I was younger. I built computers in high school and have been making websites for people, family, and friends since high school. And ever since I was manually coding them in HTML, learning a lot more as I grew up. And I actually went to school for computer science at UC Irvine. So I had the programming background. I took part of a digital arts minor. My family is very creative, and so I have the creative side and the technical side, which kind of fuse together really well because that allows me to take a look at a website not just from the perspective of how it looks, but or the perspective of how quick it loads, but together making an effective business asset. So that's why I have fun talking about this stuff.
Fantastic. So, what do you do these days, and who do you serve?
Well, I work with service businesses and I help them create high converting websites, like you mentioned in that intro. I work with a range of service businesses. I've got landscapers, even street sweeping companies, but I like to work with mental health clinics, IT consulting firms, places that just need someone to help them get their message across. I think a lot of service businesses they create a website because they're supposed to, right? But it's really just a glorified business card, and it uh, does do their company justice, right? In terms of letting people see who they are and why they're different. So that's the fun part for me is coming in for these companies, even like an IT company. They know how to make a website, right? They know the technical aspect of it, but they often miss the marketing side of how to speak in a language that their customers are going to connect with. So that's what's fun for me.
Love it. So, let's talk about speaking the language later. But
Okay.
before we get into that later, let's talk about what inspired you. Was there an event or something that happened to get you in web design?
Um, well, like I said, I've always just kind of been drawn to technology, and to me, the internet and websites, it's a cool technology that you have unlimited options in terms of what you can do, and you're creating an experience with someone else across the internet. So, um, like I said, I was doing this. People would come to me because I'm the tech guy, right? In the family, people would ask me tech support questions, and I literally had a time where my aunt called me and was complaining that this thing wasn't working. And after I asked her some questions, I was like, okay, check the back. Is it plugged in? And it wasn't. So it actually, people joke about that, like, is it plugged in? But that was actually the answer. But anyways, all that to say, like, I'm the guy people have gone to. And so I built websites. And at a certain point, I was like, okay, I need to make a company out of this. And so I created Frobro as a side business at the time, about 10 years ago, because I was with a startup back then. And then over the next few years, I kind of transitioned out of the startup and focused more on Frobro and building that up into an actual company. So I've got teams and I offer a lot more than just websites. We can do SEO, hosting and maintenance, and all of that good stuff.
Beauty. Love it. Love it. So, what is or what are what problems do you solve and how do you go about solving it?
Yeah. So the main topic of today is high converting websites, right?
Right.
Everybody, has a website. A lot of people are even running ad campaigns and driving traffic to their website, either through SEO or paid ads on Facebook or whatever. But they fail to realize that even though they have ads that people might click on, if their website doesn't also convert, then they're wasting money. And so that's a huge opportunity. If you just optimize your website, you're going to get more for the same amount of ad spend, right? And people don't often think about the difference between a conversion on the ad versus a conversion on the website. And this, I think, leads to a lot of frustration when somebody hires an agency because they're like, how are we doing? And the agency's like, great, your ads are getting, this many impressions. You've got a good conversion rate. And the owner's over here like, well, why don't I have sales then? Right. It's because they're clicking the link in the ad. The ad was good, but then they get to the website and something doesn't match up. Maybe it's too generic. Maybe they said something different than the claim in the ad, or it just didn't look professional. Maybe somebody got there like, oh, these guys don't look as established as I thought. Maybe I'm going to keep looking. So there's something like that. And that's the part that we need to focus on before you should ever send traffic there to make sure you're getting the most out of it.
Beauty. Beauty. So that's a huge problem. I've seen over the years people are spending a lot of money on advertising and the site is not converting. And then they go and
Right.
blame it on advertising or they blame it on SEO. And how do you go about, I guess, finding out what is not working in the funnel?
That's a great question. So, because there are multiple steps to the funnel, the easiest way to do it is to work through it one step at a time, right? So, start with the beginning of the funnel, top of funnel, whatever that is. If that's your ad, okay, let's run some split tests. Let's run different variations of the ads, different headlines, and see if we can improve the conversion rate there. Okay, now people are clicking, but they're not buying. Okay, let's look at our landing page. Do we need to tweak the headline? Let's try a couple of split tests here. What if we try a video? What if we do without the video? What if we shorten the copy? What if we change the price? Like, these are all tests you can do, and each time you learn a little bit, and then
Absolutely.
you get to a point where you're like, okay, now they're booking the call. All right, but nobody's buying on the call. Okay, so just work through what's the sequence of events that you have in your funnel, and one by one, do split tests, optimize them, measure them. But you have to be looking at the metrics. Otherwise, you're just guessing. And I've seen that happen a lot too. When people, business owners, especially small businesses, they might not have all the metrics in place or the analytics or know how to look at them. And so they'll go back to their website person and be like, hey, can we make this button orange? I think that'll help. Like, maybe it will, but what are you basing that on, right? You haven't run any tests. And so you don't want to do that because sometimes, like in that one case, I had a person say that, and I looked at their numbers. The conversion rate on that particular page was like 30%, which is ridiculously good. And so I told him the problem isn't your conversion rate here. The problem is you're not driving traffic to the page, because I looked at the volume of traffic coming to it and it was like, a couple of
Barely
people. So
anybody there. Yeah.
right. So this isn't the problem. Go fix the other problem. Turn on the faucet, run some ads, or hand out flyers, do something to get people there, because once they're there, they're going to convert.
Love it. One thing that I do love digging into is actually conversion optimization. And I've done some work on it myself. I've attended a few seminars on it. And I find it fascinating where, like, sometimes where you change the font size or change the color or change, I don't know, the wording or the location of something, all of a sudden the page just starts converting. And it wasn't before. What's
Yeah.
your experience with that?
My experience is that yes, sometimes that stuff helps, but it's usually incremental changes, because the changing the design helps maybe with where your eyes go on the page, and it may be if you see this line first, then maybe the psychological context that you're reading the rest of the copy in has shifted, and so now you're more receptive to the messaging on the page. So something like that makes a big difference. And another thing you have to keep in mind though is knowing what's the state people are in when they get there. Are they coming from your email list, in which case maybe they're already warm, they know who you are? Or is it cold traffic that hasn't heard about you before? Then, of course, you're going to need to change at least the way you say something, or give a little more background or context before they're going to even know what's happening. So, the more you understand and the more you go through and understand who's sending, who's going there and what they care about, what stage they're at, of course, you're going to be able to decide, make more intelligent decisions about what to test in the first place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I find it fascinating when someone comes in with a fresh set of eyes and they're like, change this, this, and that, and then you change it and it starts working. And you're like, I swear to God, I spend like a million hours on
Yeah.
It's
Well, that was
amazing.
always the
So
frustrating part too. If when people come to me in the family and they're like, "This isn't working," and I'm like, "Did you do this?" No, or wait, no, I promise I did. I did that. It didn't work for me, but it's just because I'm there now. Now it magically works.
absolutely. So let's work on like a case study. Give us an example of a client you work with, keeping their privacy. How did you find them? What was their challenge, and how did you fix it for them?
Well, I'll give you a tiny example first before I do a big one. So one example is headlines, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later because the messaging on a site is really important. So I gave a training last week, and I went through some principles about what you need to have in a headline to make it compelling. And so I had someone volunteer and show us their homepage, and then in real time I gave her some feedback. So her original heading was something like empowering trainers, elevating leaders, and transforming workplaces. So it's very generic. It's full of the, synergy, like empowering, elevating, like these words don't mean anything anymore. Right. And so what I did is said, okay, let's make sure you're answering the question of who are you helping? How are you helping them? And what's the goal here? What are you helping them with? So by giving her the feedback, we talked through it, and she came back later and said, okay, now it says equipping nonprofit leaders to build stronger teams and drive lasting impact. And that actually explained more of what she did. It talks, number one, who she's actually helping, because trainers and leaders, that could be anybody, but nonprofit leaders, okay, we've narrowed the focus quite a lot. And then if we're talking about building stronger teams, that means more than transforming workplaces, right? Driving lasting impact. She's working with nonprofits. That's what they care about. And then there's a subheadline too that same thing kind of further went into how she helps and who she helps. And it actually mentioned mid-sized nonprofits doing team building and, the types of workshops that she did. So it further called that out. But even just those little tweaks in one section, that homepage hero section, that makes such a huge difference to hook somebody in and make them realize, okay, I'm in the right place. I'm going to keep reading.
Fantastic, fantastic.
So if you
Um,
want, we could do a bigger example too, but I'll leave that to you.
sure. Let's get into it.
Okay, so another client I have is a mental health clinic, and they had originally had like one of their staff members, their husband, had offered to help with building the website, and he was helping them out as a favor, and it wasn't very good, and a lot of people were just like, "Oh yeah, uh-huh." So eventually, somebody said something to the owners like, "Hey, this doesn't really look that great," so they had me come in and. Um, give them my thoughts and help them build something out that actually aligned with their vision, both from the messaging side and also the design. Because you can't build a lawyer website is going to look a lot different than a mental health clinic, right? If not, you're doing something wrong, and that's because people are in different headspace when they're going to a clinic website as opposed to a lawyer. If you're going to a lawyer site, you want someone who's firm, confident, like experienced, going to get the job done. Whereas the mental health clinic, we wanted colors that felt warm to set people at ease, let them know they're in the right place and there's hope, right? And that we're here to help them and come alongside them. So by building a site that did that, that has actually not only helped them get a lot of clients who go to the website and feel comfortable reaching out, but actually helps them get new providers on their team. And they have additional physicians who have reached out because of the website and they're like, hey, I totally love what you guys are doing. I want to be part of this. And so if you do it right like that, it makes a huge impact on the company. And so over the past 5 years now that I've been working with them, it's just consistently had this positive effect year over year.
Absolutely. I mean, figuring out what needs to go on the website and what's the tone, what's the theme, language, the whole thing is, I guess, what makes the difference between a winning site and a not so winning site, I guess.
Yeah, and that's why a generic site that's either free from a template or even paying somebody on Fiverr 500-600 bucks, whatever, some freelancer, you're not going to get that, right? They're looking to rock it out as fast as possible, so they'll get you a template. They'll put some words in there that sound okay, but at the end of the day, they aren't looking at it from this broader perspective of, okay, what's the experience that I want my clients to have? What do they care about? How can I help them when they get there? While at the same time moving them in a direction towards the action I want them to take, whether that's requesting a quote or getting my free guide or whatever it is. So you kind of have to take all that into consideration when you're building the site.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the mistakes that business owners make. What are some of the mistakes that business owners make on their site that kind of kills their sales and conversions?
Yeah, so I think most often people just treat the site as a glorified business card, and so they'll list, their name, their address, their contact info. They'll list a couple of their services, and they talk about themselves, right? Like we've been in business for 13 years. We stand for quality and service. Reach out to us today. Okay, but you can't really get away with that anymore because everybody's saying that, right? Like if you're a plumber, you're saying the exact same things. The next plumber, there's the next guy, the next guy. All the sites are the same. So you have to, in order to stand out, you need to really understand who your customer is, what they care about, and then in that headline, speak to those things directly. Because now, and let's say that somebody's checking out 3 or 4 different plumbers. This one's the same. Okay, yeah, service, whatever. But then this one suddenly speaks a little bit different. And you're like, huh. And they're talking about the things you care about, like not just showing up on time, but we won't leave a mess. You don't pay if we can't fix it. We won't send 2 guys when we only need one. Like whatever it is that your customers often complain about with plumbers, if you're like, hey, we're not going to do those things and we're going to do this other thing instead to make sure this is the best experience possible. Like, okay, I'm willing to give you guys a try now because you actually know the problems with other plumbers and seem to be trying to fix it. So it can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. So before we started, you talked about the 3 core principles of high converting sites.
Yeah.
What are they, and how do we go about it?
Yeah, so I'll go through just at a high level what they are. So the first one is clear messaging that instantly hooks your visitors. Your website has usually no more than 5 seconds to make an impression. Some people say it's 3 seconds. But if visitors don't immediately understand who you help, what you do, and why they should care, they will leave. So that's why that headline is so important when people first get onto your website homepage. So a common mistake would be to have a generic headline like "Welcome to our website" or "We help businesses grow." That doesn't grab attention. Like it's nice that you want to welcome them, but okay, say something more interesting right off the bat. So I gave an example earlier, right? Of instead of empowering and elevating and transforming, like say, okay, we're providing management training for mid-sized nonprofits, teaching essential skills like delegation, motivation, and team building to improve employee retention and create a thriving workplace work culture. Right? That that's way more specific and compelling because now it does one of two things. Right? It either turns people away if they're like, oh, that's not me. I'm not a mid-sized nonprofit.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't want to talk to them anyways, right? Save
Hmm.
their time, save my time. Or they say, yes, I need to talk to this person because they get it. They're going to scroll down, they're going to click the button and call you. So that's
Love it.
number one is clear messaging. And just one more note on that. When we're building a site from the ground up and doing a redesign, messaging is the first thing we do. So I've got a questionnaire that I send to my clients and say, okay, fill this out so that I can understand your business, your services, who your target market is, what they care about. And then we write the homepage text first before we ever even come up with a design. So we make sure we understand that. And then the design is there to support the messaging. It shouldn't distract from it. It shouldn't be just, flashy for the sake of being visually interesting. Like, yes, we can make it look good and professional, but messaging comes first. All right. So the second thing would be having a strong call to action that guides your visitors toward the next step. So there are a lot of business websites that fail because they don't clearly direct visitors on what to do next, or they give them too many options and they're just like, you can schedule with me here, or you can download this, or you can go over here. And you just have to take a step back, figure out, okay, what do I want my visitors to do when they get to this page? And if you, everybody's got multiple things, right? A homepage is a place to help people get where they need to go. And then you can have dedicated pages for individual services or offerings or events where you can go into detail on those things. So that way you have a place to send people, if that's what they care about, directly to that page. But you don't want to overwhelm them. So a weak call to action or CTA would be something like contact us or learn more, because this we see those all the time. It doesn't really create any urgency or communicate value. So a stronger call to action would be something like download my free podcast playbook or book your free 30-minute consultation call. Those are better, right? So if let's say I worked with somebody who has a podcast agency, and before he had a button that says book a discovery call. But if we change that, and treat that button as a mini headline and sub headline with some of these same principles we were talking about. It can say, book your free 90-minute discovery call. And then the second line says to get your free 90-day action plan to get your podcast ranked number one. Put that all in there. That's fine. Have a giant button because now you're letting people know what's coming. People don't like surprises. So right up front, you're making a promise like, hey, if you have this call, it's going to be worth it. It's not just like, I'm going to be trying to pitch you. I'm telling you right now what you're going to get out of it. So what have you got to lose, right? So that's another example. Any questions there before I move on to number 3?
No, it's pretty straightforward. Strong CTA. So we talked about clear messaging, strong CTA. And what's the third one?
Well, the third one would be trust building elements that help people take action. So we're so used to Amazon now. We always check the reviews, right? Before we buy something, we want to see the number of stars it has and what people had to say about it. And so we carry that mentality into other areas of business when we're hiring a professional looking for a service to be done, because we don't want to take the risk, right? If someone else has already hired that person, had a good experience, that puts me at ease knowing, okay, at least somebody else had a good experience. If 500 other people had a good experience, okay, I feel way more confident now. Sometimes that'll outweigh the one negative review that I see on there because, well, okay, that guy's probably a fluke because they've got 500 other positive reviews. But if you got like 1 star, a 4-star, 2, and maybe 2 5-stars, that's not good enough, right? So lead with what you have to give you credibility and to show that your reputation is good. People liked working with you. And so there's different ways to have, that trust portrayed. So you could do things like testimonials is the most obvious one. Ask your clients to write out a testimonial, post it on Google Business Profile. You can screenshot it, or you can use a widget to pull it in directly. You could even have them record video testimonials, especially for higher ticket projects. People are more likely to do a video testimonial. You can do media logos, right? So if you've been featured in a magazine or on the news, or you had a publication, published on some blog or something, sure, put those. Or you can put logos of your clients that people may or may not recognize, but might matter in your area. But you're essentially showcasing, look, I'm a legit business. I know what I'm doing. I've had success. You can trust me. You're going to have a similar experience like these other people have. So you could do case studies, client success stories, put screenshots of the charts of, the campaigns that you've managed to show the before and after, right? Anything like that. Don't just make the promise like, hey, we'll help you get double your return on your ad spend. But if you say, we'll help you get double your return on ad spend like we did for this other company, here's some screenshots, that's way more compelling. So whenever you can, add those trust building elements.
Beautiful. So
So
we
those are
talked
the
about
3.
clear messaging. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
the hook is clear and explain, and it's a specific, geared towards a specific group of people. So it brings in the right people and it deters the wrong
Mm-hmm.
people. Strong call to action to, and I like what you said about treating it as a mini headline. So not like contact us, learn more, and all the boring stuff, but it's like download my free playbook sub headline so you can become number one in the world or whatever the case may be. And
Yeah.
trust building elements for what people say, testimonials, videos, before afters, case studies. Those are all amazing. It seems very simple, but I'm thinking 99% of people miss almost something about this list, if not all
Yeah,
of it.
and just being aware, like, and going through this can help you notice, like, oh, I did make this mistake. I did talk about this myself, because it's hard doing your own website. Like, even for me,
Oh
building
God,
websites, it's way easier for me to build my client websites and give them
yeah,
awesome websites. Then I look at my own website and I'm like, well,
yeah,
maybe, and I struggle with it more than I do with everybody else's,
hundred
and
percent.
that's normal. So that's why it can be helpful to have a marketing professional help you build the site, because they're going to have that separate lens that they're looking through and kind of get past that whatever emotional attachment you have to it, to say, hey, you should say this way, right? And you're like, oh, okay. It's a lot easier. And actually have a checklist for you guys listening. If you go to frober.com/checklist, you can download my high converting checklist for your website, and it'll guide you through some questions you can ask and look at, okay, did I do this? Did I update my CTAs? Did I do that? And so that can help you assess your own site.
So it's frobro.com/checklist.
Yep.
Checklist, one word, no dash or hyphens in between,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
All right, beautiful. So again, go to frobro.com/checklist and get your website checklist so you can improve your website.
Yep.
Yeah, I love what you said about I can't do my own site. I'm in the same boat. Like I help people with their marketing, and then sometimes people are like, "Why is it that your own say website not so good?" I'm like, "'Cause I'm busy doing your site." And when was the last time, say, you see a heart surgeon like doing surgery on his own heart, right? It's like
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we all should always. A couple of weeks ago, I heard something about consultation, and I think it went something along the lines of consultation is one of the God's greatest gifts out there, where you can go out there and ask for consultation from someone with expertise that could save you light years of work and
Yeah.
pain and frustration, because it's their expertise. They could look at your website. Like I'm sure you could look at my site and within seconds come up with a list of things that needs to be done. I could probably do the same for you, but I can't never do that
Yeah.
for myself.
Yeah,
Right?
it
Like
is
you
so
said.
interesting. And something to remember is, your website is never done. So obviously, yes, there's going to be pockets of big effort, right, to do a redesign, get the messaging right, and launch it. But don't just walk away for 3 years and not think about it. Like, you gotta check in on it, you gotta do some split tests, you gotta see what's working and not, and you're always gonna be tweaking things when you're like, "Oh, you know what? People don't really they're not getting this. I need to rephrase this," or, you're just gonna be tweaking it and updating it, and obviously, you should be adding blog content and stuff to keep your site alive and well, but it's never 100% done.
Absolutely. It's always work in progress, right? And there's always
Yep.
room for improvement somewhere.
Yeah, and especially as you're
Um,
growing in your business, you want the website to grow with you, because I see a
right.
lot too. Maybe when you built the site, it was great for where you were as a solopreneur or something, but now you've got a team and you offer all these other services and you still haven't updated your website. That's not good, because now people are judging you based on the 2 years ago you, right? Remember, your website is primarily there for people to judge you. Like, it's your first impression to a lot of people before they ever decide to reach out and contact you. So you want to make sure that it's an accurate reflection of what you bring to the table as a business.
100%. 100%. So, what is the difference between like a $600 website versus a $6,000 website?
So for a $600 website, yeah, you'll probably get something pretty generic. It might be template based. Um, they'll pull in some images that you give them, but it's going to be mostly transactional in the sense that, okay, I want it to be this and that. They won't question that, and they'll just do it the way you ask. Here's your carousel, and then they'll give you a website and you'll have it. So that might be okay if you're just starting out, right? But don't stay with that as you grow. The $6,000 website is going to allow you to have custom copy that's written by a copywriter with experience with either direct marketing, or maybe they're trained in um, they have, oh, what's that framework? Donald Miller. Um, I'm blanking on it. What's the framework called?
Uh,
It'll come to me later. But anyways,
brand
he's got a
story brand?
story brand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, you might have a copywriter trained in that, or their direct response, and then they're going to write your copy. So it's going to be way more compelling because of the reasons we've talked about, right? They're going to understand the target market and the pain points, how to communicate effectively with that audience. And then number two, you're going to have a designer actually build something custom that's going to support that message, and it's not going to be shoehorned into a template. Because what can happen is, template might give you 2 lines for a section at the beginning, but the copywriter's like, no, we need like a full paragraph here to convey this on this part of the screen. And you're like, okay, but if I do that, then it makes this section kind of look weird. And I got this blank space on the side. I don't know what to do with that. So that's what happens when you're doing the template first, and then the copy kind of is shoved in there and you're missing opportunities. So that's another reason we do messaging first and then build a design around it. So the higher, more expensive website is going to do that for you. And then of course you should also have the technical expertise to make sure the site is SEO ready. It's optimized to load quickly. It's set up with CDN or minification stuff that you need to do to optimize the images, and do any integrations to tie it to your CRM so that you can trigger email sequences, or so you can do custom forms to send different things to people depending on what option they selected in the dropdown. That's all stuff that comes with the more expensive websites. And you can obviously spend more than that too. If you want to build out custom quizzes for your coaching clients, there's always stuff you can do to make it more unique to your business and work more on the back end of your business to integrate it into what your staff has to do, make their lives easier, and make it more of a seamless experience for your customers. So $600 site gets you started, maybe, but a $6,000 site is going to be a much better asset for driving business and revenue.
When is a good time to invest in a $600 website versus a $6,000 website?
Well, when you're first getting started, yeah, a $600 website is fine. I mean, maybe even build your own first, and as soon as you can afford it, you do the $600 one, and then as you grow and move forward, yes, once you get to the point where you can afford the $6,000 one, you should do it, because it's going. The whole point of this call, right? We're talking about high converting websites. So the more traffic you drive there, you want to capture and convert as much of it as possible. So if your website isn't set up to do that, then that's just missed revenue, right? And lost opportunities. So as soon as you can afford to, you should do that. Pretty simple.
Love it. You just wait until you can afford it, I guess.
Yeah.
Should someone starting out without any customers in cash invest in an expensive website?
If they have a background with other business experience, then sure. And they've got some starting capital, then yes, they can start there. But if you're brand new to business or you're a solopreneur, you might be in a little bit over your head, because so there's two elements to generating leads from a website, right? One is traffic, the other is conversions. Right now we're talking about conversions. We're assuming you already have traffic to the website. If you're brand new and you don't have a plan for how to drive traffic, okay, yeah, it's good to have high conversion rate, but 30% of nothing is still zero,
Nothing.
right? So you
Yeah.
need an ad strategy or SEO strategy or a door knocking strategy, cold call, cold email, something to generate the traffic. And once the traffic gets to your site, okay, now you can convert them.
Love it. Love it. So let's talk about some of the milestones that you've achieved. What are they over the years? What have you achieved over the years?
You mean just from a business perspective or
Yeah.
with websites? I think, I've gone through a lot of the phases. I initially started just as a side thing, like, so okay, I do websites here and there, but then I shifted to like, okay, this is now my business. I build business websites for people, and of course, I quickly realized people don't want a website; they want customers, and so that's part of what helped me refine my process to doing the messaging first and learning additional tools to how. To make the website look good and still be easy to maintain and load fast and all of that, finding the right balance, because there's so many platforms out there. And so I've gotten more specific and restrictive on the types of websites that I build. So I used to do all sorts of things. I'll do an e-commerce website or whatever. Now I just focus on service businesses. It's only WordPress, and I try to do just my own hosting, because that way I can control the performance as well and say this is going to load fast, because I can make sure that it will. Occasionally, someone will hire me and they'll host it over on GoDaddy or something, and it might be okay, but it's never as good as our hosting. We're much more efficient. But anyways, so I've grown from there. I've had a team now, so I've got an SEO team. I've got ads partners. I've got admin assistant. I've got a webmaster who helps me keep an eye on the sites that we are hosting and maintaining. So there's all different phases of the business. I don't know exactly if you're looking for a particular one. I've had a couple of years in a row where I've doubled revenue. So it's been a fun process, and I've learned a lot along the way, and looking forward to keeping growing even more.
Fantastic. Absolutely love it. And what would you say were some of the challenges that you faced while reaching those milestones?
Ooh, I mean, what everything, right? So part of being an entrepreneur is learning to fail and learn from those mistakes and continuing to take action in the right direction and course correcting whenever possible. But you can't grow beyond a certain level if you're not willing to face your own like insecurities and discomfort areas where you're like, I know I should be doing that, but I keep putting it off and procrastinating. Like, okay, I got to do the personal development work in order to break through that, and either hire someone else to do it or learn how to do it myself. But I have to get past those roadblocks that I've got internally. Maybe it's because I've got limiting beliefs or just past experience. I'm like not confident in my ability to do that. And that just a lot of that comes from trying and failing and learning how to do it differently, finding mentors and all that good stuff.
Beautiful. I love what you said about facing your own insecurities. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's That's a major thing in a lot of businesses and business owners, where we need to get the business owner out of the way so the business can grow.
Yeah, it turns out that's harder to do than you might realize. It sounds nice
Yeah,
on paper when you're like, "Yeah, I'm going to own a business," but you don't realize you just kind of own a job for a while until you figure out how to delegate or how to put in systems and how to get yourself out of the way. Because there's only so many hours in the day. I literally can't do everything, and I'm not great at everything. So, like when I first hired a bookkeeper, I was like, "This is amazing! I don't have to do it myself anymore and get behind and do it wrong and stuff like that." So it allows me to focus on the areas where I am in my zone of genius and I can do a lot of good helping my clients while still the other stuff making sure it gets taken care
beauty, beauty. Jeffro, what would you say is holding you or your business back right now?
of. I have the same things, right? It's just a new challenge and discomfort areas that I'm always working through. So, um, yeah, I don't know if I can give you a specific answer right now. What I am looking at is um, refining some of the internal processes that I have to be ready for additional growth and scale, because I have made the mistake in the past of trying to grow too fast when I wasn't ready for it, and that was a big problem. And went into debt because of that, and I learned a lot of lessons because of it. So I'm glad that I was able to learn those lessons, but it was pretty painful. And so now, as I go forward, I have that in the back of my mind to make sure I don't make those mistakes again. And so I'm growing a little more slowly and steadily to make sure I do it right.
Love it. Love it. Improving internal processes is a huge thing that I think a
Yeah.
lot of businesses don't pay attention to. Well, they
Yeah.
most of them don't even have processes to begin with. Never mind improving it.
Yeah, it can be a pain. That's why a lot of people don't do it. And even if you try to create a process, you might not realize how it's going to be interpreted, and so you've got to revisit it when the person trying to follow the process did it differently. And they're like, "Why'd you do that? I thought I said to do this." I'm like, "Oh, I thought it meant this." Like, okay, well, you got to figure out a way to be crystal clear so that when anybody's looking at it, they can follow it exactly.
Love it. Can I ask you some personal questions?
You can ask.
All right. What's a new thing you've tried recently? Big or small? Is it as small as a new cup of coffee or as big as going to the moon?
I Going to the moon would be cool, but I have not done that. Something new I'm doing recently is allowing myself to take breaks to do like building a Lego set or something. Because I think for a long time I would try to pack as much into my calendar as possible, and that just kind of leads to burnout, and I need some like mental reset time. And so I would take breaks, but I might end up scrolling on social media or something. Whereas now I'm trying to be intentional with the types of activities I do on those breaks, so that my brain actually gets a chance to recharge a little bit. And so that way I don't feel guilty about doing it, because I know it's going to allow me to be a better version of myself on my next meeting, on my next podcast, or whatever I happen to be doing.
Love it. So giving yourself more breaks so you could do more personal stuff.
And not feeling guilty about taking those breaks.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's actually a big part of us in entrepreneurship, especially people that have families. We feel guilty for taking time off.
Yeah.
Are you a
Like, if I
family
just
man?
push through harder. Yeah, I've got 3 boys, and a wife, so I'm busy.
Oh yeah, good, good. Do you read books?
I try to, yeah. So I try to read a little bit each day. Sometimes it's personal stuff, sometimes it's business books, but yeah, a little bit every day.
Give me two of your favorite books of all time.
I really like Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. So that's one everybody should read if you're a business owner and looking to grow. And then the other is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, which is
Hmm.
a really helpful one for breaking through limiting beliefs and kind of rewiring your brain for uh, financial success, essentially.
Yeah, I loved Harv's seminars. I think I
Oh,
attended a seminar like 5, 6 times. Too bad he's not
nice.
doing it. He sold the company, is not doing it anymore,
I think his
and the
son
new
does it now,
company
right?
shut it down.
Oh, they
His
did?
son doesn't know.
Well, I've seen emails from his son at some point. I don't know if he's still doing it, but
Oh yeah, I haven't attended his son's workshops, but they were good. I think it was called the God Million or something. millionaire event, millionaire weekend, but they were very good and transformational. So I got a
Yeah.
lot out of it.
Yeah. Definitely, you
What's
guys should
one?
check that out.
Absolutely. What's one advice that made a big impact on your life or business?
Um, I think in general, just to focus on uh, uh, taking care of myself so I can be a better person for everybody else. So like prioritizing exercise and eating better. Like I've always been in decent shape, but being intentional about it makes a huge difference because my energy levels are way up when I exercise. I feel better. I perform better. I'm better able to be present and patient with my kids when they're having issues. So just again being okay with that and taking that philosophy from the airplane of putting your own mask on before you help somebody else. Like I can't help you if I'm just tired and beat down all the time. So I've got to take care of myself, and then I can help take care of others as well.
100%. 100%. Years ago, are you familiar with Jim Rohn?
Yeah,
Yeah, I learned from him saying I'll something along the lines of I'll take care of myself so I can help you, exactly like what you said, or
yeah,
take care of yourself for me, and I'll take care of myself for you.
yeah,
Um, Amazing, amazing. Taking care of ourselves is extremely important, and I think in the world of entrepreneurship, people forget about themselves, and they're just so much focused on the business and other people that it's just they just don't prioritize.
yeah. And that's not sustainable. So if you want to build something that lasts a long time and impacts a lot of people, you have to do it in a way that allows you to be the best version of yourself for as long as possible.
Fantastic, love it. Um, Jeffro, this was a great conversation. You shared a ton of value. Thank you for sharing and everything. Where can people find out more about you and reach out?
Well, if you want to learn more, go to frobro.com/checklist and you can get my high converting website checklist. Or if you just want to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for Jeffro. Um, and those are probably the best ways to find me.
Beautiful. So, gang, go to jeffrobro.com/checklist
There you
to
go.
download the high converting website checklist. And you can search Jeffro on LinkedIn and other platforms and reach out and connect and have a conversation about your website, your marketing, conversion optimization, and a whole bunch of other things that they do, and they will take care of you. Jeffro, thank you very much. Gang, you've been listening to an episode of the Simple Marketing podcast. Your host, Mustafa Hosseini, with my guest, Jeffro. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you on our next episode.